what has changed since my initial great connection that I have with this prospective client? If you're not born in Canada, you're now doing business here, this is the right place for you. Click here the subscribe button and set up the alert. If the content of this video is something useful, let us know by clicking the like button. I hear a lot, right, from immigrant entrepreneurs, which I'm one of them, right? I'm an immigrant entrepreneur in Canada. I've been here for 26 years. So naturally, Canada has a population that has a lot of immigrants. 23% of people roughly in Canada were born in a different country, born and raised. And in the Toronto area alone, about 52%. And that's the largest city in the country, right? And so in the metropolitan area around the city of Toronto, like we have a lot of people that were born and raised in another country. And what sometimes we as immigrants forget is that we take certain things for granted from the places where we grew up. Sometimes we forget about the implicit knowledge that we bring. For example, in a lot of emerging countries in the world, and the way I define emerging is, think about a place that has a lot of social inequality, like the difference between layers of society is very pronounced. Differences in educational levels, in purchasing power, and other measurements are really stark. So in emerging countries, the whole dynamics of society and the whole dynamics of business is very different from a more, let's say, a flat society where there's very little difference between the top and the bottom, which, believe it or not, like it's kind of true in Canada, right? In Canada, there is less difference between the very rich and the very poor than there is in many, many countries, right? So one of the things that happens back home is that because decisions are very centralized at the top of this pyramid, and there is a very big disparity between the top and the bottom of the pyramids, like people in the top are seen almost like with reverence. So nobody likes to go and tell their boss that they're wrong or raise a point and say, hey, I don't think this is going to work, because that can be career suicide, right? You don't want to antagonize somebody with so much power. And in Canada, people are more used to being more open, right? So what ends up happening? How's the decision process? Let's say you own a business here in Canada and you're trying to make a sale. So you met a prospect, and let's say you got lucky and you met the top decision maker, the CEO of the company, the chairman of the board, whatever, like somebody with incredible decision power at the top of an organization. And let's say that what you sell is a perfect fit for some problem that they have or some opportunity they want to create. So there is this fit. You're like, wow, it's great. I can sell and solve this problem. And I have this great connection with the CEO or whatever decision maker. This is what typically happens though. And this is where people start to forget and we start to move into blind spots. People very often forget that decision-making in Canada is rarely made by one individual. Maybe the case for very small clients, right? You have to convince that one person and that's it, right? But that only really happens if the business is really small. The business starts to get a bit of a management layer. You have like different, what we call here, stakeholders, not shareholders, not owners of the business, but like we have like different managers, different areas, different people. We may want to know that if we switch to a different supplier or if we start to buy something that we didn't buy before, that we don't break anything that was working well. So there's this thing about in the heads of Canadians that is, Canadians don't really like to break something that's working. And, oh yeah, but the potential is going to be so much better. Well, but yeah, is it really going to work well? Because sometimes there are hiccups during implementation or when we switch to a new supplier. So people tend to be a bit skeptical of change. In an organization where you have multiple people with a decent amount of decision power, decisions are going to be made as a group. So what ends up happening is, even though your contact originally may have been the CEO or the chairman or the president, they're not going to make that decision by themselves. They're going to take this to a meeting with their people and say, hey, what do you guys think? And the finance guy is going to talk about something. The engineering person is going to talk about something else. The human resources person is going to talk about how it's going to impact employees. Maybe like some employees is going to say, hey, but... So you have to think about decision to purchase in Canada is being very multi-dimensional, right? Maybe you have a lot of people involved. If you have fewer people, you have a lot of criteria involved. It's not because a CEO liked you and liked something you showed them that, oh yeah, done, we're going to do it. Because this is what happens in emerging countries a lot. Sometimes you have this great connection on the top, person A here, met a person A there, and they agree to say, sure, let's do business, boom. But then as the teams on both sides start to align things, you start to see that there's a lot of things that's not aligned at all. You have to do a lot of readjustments. So it's not uncommon for a decision to be made. Yeah, sure, let's do business, because these two people on top got along very well. But then it takes like 18 months or whatever, right, for everybody to work out the bugs, the details. The difference in Canada is that Canadians like to work out those bugs and details before making the decision and the commitment that they indeed want to buy and to switch the supplier. And that's a very important distinction, right? People are not ready necessarily to make the transition until they are certain about it. It's not about, yeah, we are certain first because we had a great report and now let's figure out the details. No, it's like, okay, this seems interesting. Send me your details. I'm going to share this with my colleagues. These people are going to bring somebody else from the team. They're also going to consider from their angles. And we're going to work out the bugs there. We may have questions, well, this doesn't seem right. And then people get busy. Then somebody goes on vacation. So it takes forever. It takes very long comparatively to how things happen in an emerging country, which is connection at the top, boom, decision made. Now let's just work out the details. In Canada, it's like, let's look at the details. Oh, there's a little more details we need. Oh, but we didn't think about this thing. Let's look at this thing. Oh, but now somebody's on vacation. Let's wait until they come back. Oh, this person's no longer working with us. We're waiting until the new hire comes on board. Oh, now they're busy because they're doing the job of two other people. So this thing can be very frustrating for people that were born and raised in emerging markets that are used to a decision being made because you made the right connection with the right person at the top. So things in Canada can be very different, the whole dynamics. If this all seems complicated and a bit discouraging to you, don't worry. That's why we have our program here, Your Business in Canada, and we have our materials. We can help you throughout this process. And our platform, Your Business in Canada, what we do here is that we help you take these steps, right? We'll be by your side as you take the steps, and you do that as part of a group of other immigrant business people that are building success in Canada. But let's come back here. Okay, what's the content of this video then? So, okay, but what can we do about it then? Well, you have to prepare for this process where multiple people will be involved in the decision. It's not about shaking the right hand, meeting the right person. No, it's about really understanding. We have to be curious about what it is that my client needs from me. Not only about the value proposition that I'm delivering. Are the payment terms aligned? Is the packaging correct? Is it everything is translated? What about my compliance? Do I have the insurance certificate? Do I have my, we really need early in the process, start to ask the following question. Who else needs to be part of this decision? What else do we need to be prepared here in parallel? Because you can't do things in parallel. As somebody is assessing the technical merits of what you're trying to sell, somebody else has to look at the financial aspect, or somebody else wants to look at the people impact aspect. These things can run in parallel, but you need to be very aware that any sale in Canada will be made to people that are considering multiple variables, multiple angles, right? If we just focus on one thing and say, no, buy from me because of this, the product is great and your boss already agreed, then 15 things are going to pop up that are going to say, well, maybe not now. Well, maybe this is not perfect. Well, but we have this other competitor that they're doing this great thing for me. And then it's too late if you start to say, oh yeah, we can do that too. And oh yeah, really, why did you say that beforehand? Because you didn't do the homework. So it's like, let's be curious. Let's try to understand what's important to the client before we make that offer. Say, yeah, when can you start? When we ask that question, when can we start? We need to have already debugged the system. That's the key difference between emerging countries and Canada. In emerging countries, people make the decision first, and then we're going to work out the bugs. In Canada, we have to work out all the bugs before. then they make the decision. They say, yeah, let's start. Okay? So here are a couple of videos that can be useful in this journey for you.